This is me, Spoon Beast.
I'm just going to take this time to wish all of you, my viewers, a very happy holidays. Belated, mind you, but better late than never. Also, speaking of better late than ever, for all of you who are sure to bring this up, yes, I am aware that on Boxing Day, Zelda was confirmed for the Smash Bros. 4 roster. In fact, if you noticed during my last video, I was sure that she was going to be December's only character, or better yet, veteran announcement. But thankfully we were given a newcomer this month, and got our monthly veteran on top of it all. What I can say is, I'm good at calling the veterans before their announcements this whole one time. Also, the daily Smash Miiverse post that Sakurai's been doing is on break until a few days into the new year. And as a result, so am I. We'll dig more into Smash 4 in the new year when, well, there's more to dig into. Now onto the real topic for today's video. For those of you who may not know, I've been a big fan of PlayStation for a long time. In fact, the first PlayStation was my first ever non-Nintendo console that I ever owned. I began to get familiar with it at my uncle's, as he owned one and let me and my brother play it whenever we would visit. Eventually he felt he really had no real use of it anymore, so he gave it to us, completely free of charge, quite generous of him, I must say. It was this console that was the first to really introduce me to 3D platforming games. It was here that I was introduced what I still believe to be one of my favorite series from that era of gaming, in Crash Bandicoot. The first actual game I got and put a major amount of time into for the PlayStation was Crash Bandicoot Warped. It introduced me to the style that was really taking gaming to a whole new level at the time. I know it might seem like a bit of a surprise, but I had a very limited amount of exposure to the Nintendo 64 during this time period, which produced a great gem for 3D platforming with Super Mario 64. But again, I had very little playtime with it, as it was more of a console to play while at another person's house, and I didn't end up getting one, like for myself, until the GameCube began to peak. So with that being said, all my real heavy-duty playing for 3D games started with Crash Bandicoot. And from playing Warped, I was interested to see what else there was from this franchise. I then played the first game as well as its first sequel, realizing a trilogy of these games existed. And naturally, I ended up finding the party games like Crash Team Racing and Crash Bash, that also gave me seemingly endless hours of entertainment. It was also the game series that me and my lifelong buddy really enjoyed the most of the various PlayStation games that we delved into. I hold these memories very dear, and I credit Crash as well as Spyro the Dragon as the guys who helped introduce me to the PlayStation brand, and develop me into the gamer that I am today, as corny as that may sound. Eventually, the consoles progressed forward as the PlayStation 2 came to be, and I was introduced to an even wider array of titles and franchises. Though I did play Crash's first PS2 release, The Wrath of Cortex, and it didn't really feel like it had the same charm that captivated me with the original trilogy of games on the original PlayStation. But I will concede, it was still a fun little thing to pick up and play. Though, eventually, I would admit I did lose interest, and found a new series in Kingdom Hearts that really interested me, and I became quite invested in it for a good portion of that particular generation of gaming. My last real Crash game that I had any experience with was Crash Purple for the Game Boy Advance. And again, I would eventually lose interest, though I must commend them on pulling the trigger on a Crash and Spyro crossover. That needed to happen sooner, and it would have been a far bigger deal on the original PlayStation. Though I should also touch upon this. After Crash Team Racing, Naughty Dog was no longer developing games for the Crash Bandicoot series. And I think that's where a lot of that initial magic was lost. Universal would get various other developers to make newer games, like Vicarious Visions for example, as they always owned the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon franchises. What many people might forget is that both of these properties were never owned by Sony themselves. And eventually, Universal sold the rights to both of these great and nostalgic properties to Activision, who went on to develop a few very subpar Crash titles before seemingly dismissing the entire series altogether. At least Spyro was given a chance to find his niche in recent years, with Skylanders. I don't think Crash was ever given a real fair chance to succeed at any kind of comeback. He's since been missing in action from the gaming world for almost the last 6 years. Now, I know what you're all yelling at your screens right now. What is the point of this whole history lesson? I'll reveal that to you right now. A month and a half ago, during the launch of the PlayStation 4, Sony released a promotional trailer to get everyone hyped. And at one point during this said trailer, a traffic sign is shown, and it looks as though the silhouette of Crash Bandicoot's render from Crash Twinsanity is what the sign is displaying. I am in no way confirming this to be the truth, or am I directly telling you that that is what the sign's actually supposed to be showing. But it's an interesting thought. My good YouTube companion, Jeremiah Isaiah, brought this to my attention the day of the PS4 launch. And I'm subscribed to his channel because I know it's a reliable source for all things Bandicoot. Reviews, news, rumors, the whole lot. He's very passionate about the series, and like me, is just holding out for a proper comeback. Has Sony indeed bought Crash Bandicoot's IP from Activision? Interestingly enough, when you search for the current properties owned by Activision on their official website, Crash Bandicoot is no longer found. Also, the company themselves, through various tweets and other public postings, has simply had no comment on this matter whatsoever. They're not really confirming anything as fact, but they're not denying this possibility either. If Sony does indeed own the rights to Crash Bandicoot, then I think the series is in the best hands possible. Because now, the company can hand a future project to one of their lead developers, perhaps even back to Naughty Dog themselves, to create a hell of a first game back, and the biggest resurgence possible on the PlayStation 4. Just take a look at Sonic the Hedgehog, one of the most recognizable gaming icons ever. And when was his last actual classic? He's had many resurgences over the years, and if he can get one after Sonic 06, then I'd say Crash can climb out of this hole he's been in all this time. Gamers like myself and Jeremiah still love the character and the series around it for all the memories they've given us, and a series that still, to this day, has a lot of untapped potential that's just waiting to be discovered. If Sony has indeed bought the rights back to a series that helped them compete against household names in Mario and Sonic back in the day, and helped them make a name for themselves in this market, then I'm sure Crash Bandicoot holds a special place in all of Sony's hearts as well. And I'm sure they will give him at least one last big run to see whatever magic the two parties can muster up once again. Again, I'm not confirming anything with this video. In fact, it's just a rumor that's been spreading like wildfire within the Crash community here on the internet. And as a long-term fan of the franchise who's just been silently waiting for a comeback, I'm personally crossing my fingers in the hopes that this is all true, and it's just being kept very quiet for a potentially shocking future game trailer unveil, or something similar. As always, my dear viewers, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, or a thumbs down if it grinded some gears. Follow me on various social media, you know, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams, and G+. Yeah. And if you ever want to talk personally, shoot a comment on this video or my channel itself, or if you want to go even further than that, please, feel free to add me on Skype. I wish all of you wonderful people the very happiest of New Year's, and I'll see all of you in 2014.